State lawmakers are once again debating driver's licenses, including proposed changes to bring New Mexico into compliance with the Federal Real ID Act. Governor Martinez wants the state to stop granting licenses to undocumented immigrants, but Democratic leadership in the legislature has pushed back against that proposal year after year after year after year. Another compromise bill is making progress this year, an amended bill that would allow undocumented immigrants, and this is important, anyone who doesn't want a real ID, to apply for a driving privilege card, Laura Sanchez-Rivey. This could be the quick turn, possibly, this idea of splitting the two different licenses. Do we have a chance here? And the governor's already said, don't bring this thing to me. But do we have a chance to get this out of the legislature?
I think there's a chance, but I still think it's got a long road, and it's only got another week to go. So that's a problem, because essentially, they took the House version. The Senate definitely changed it quite a bit. Took out the fingerprint. There was a fingerprinting requirement. Took that out. It seems to have some momentum now in the Senate in its current version. If it passes the Senate, then it has to go back to the House. And then if they pass something different, if they don't adopt that, which is, if they've already passed the original one, they may not like this one, then it goes to conference committee. And so you're talking about a conference committee having to negotiate and figure out, what they're going to do to actually come out with something that's plausible for everybody. So it could get completely watered down, or it could just stall, and then who knows if it's something that the governor actually wants to sign or not.
That's right.
So I still think that it's got a long road to go. I think this is a hurdle that it's passed, but this is the same bill, essentially a very similar bill to what the Senate passed last year, or last session. And it was Stuart Ingle and Senator Ingle and Senator Smith's version of the bill.
That's right.
So it already had support of the Senate, and that same version did not have the support of the House. So I think we're talking about very different bills here.
The dreaded conference committee, Sophie Martin, the dreaded conference committee, because the House Republicans are already in the record saying if it comes back to the House without the fingerprint side, it's
one
DOA.
of the really interesting things about fingerprint, and I deal with it in my business, is that the feds have said we actually will not participate in the fingerprinting.
Right.
And so what we see in the states like Utah that have implemented a fingerprinting regime, first of all, it's not necessary for Real ID. The federal government doesn't require it, doesn't need it, and so it is an enhancement that the governor is asking for. But second of all, it's not actually practical from an implementation perspective. So. And one more thing. I mean, I could get into the state, like what the state would do with it, but I think there's this. What we're getting from the House and from the governor is, okay, licenses for undocumented immigrants, but we're going to do our best to make sure that not a single one takes us up on the offer. Right. And we have law enforcement and others saying, listen, it's important for everyone in this state to have ID. We need to know who people are. And the incidents of fraud, I mean, I'm reminded, frankly, and now I'm riffing all over the place, of the case that's back in front of the courts where the ACLU forced Diana Duran, former Secretary of State Diana Duran, to reveal her thousands and thousands of fraudulent voters. They're not there.
That's right.
This feels similar to me, like a problem that's been ginned up by the governor's office, this issue of, yes, sure, every once in a while somebody does get a license who shouldn't, but the vast majority of New Mexicans are not in that position, and they're working hard to make sure that undocumented immigrants in our state do not get the license. That's what I see.
Rachel Sams, interesting point Sophie made there, part of that nexus of the FBI, states, she mentioned Utah, is this idea if somebody has committed a federal crime and they come in to get a license and they're undocumented, that the state is then obligated to call the feds right away and deal with the deportation situation right away. And as Sophie says, who's going to voluntarily do that?
It's not
right.
Who's going to do that? Exactly right.
Yeah, it's just one more kind of sticking point. It seems like there are several with this issue, and as Laura pointed out, this late in the session, it's starting to look a little dicey.
But we have this push, right? The governor's team has really been pounding the drums on the idea that it has to happen now. It had to happen in January.
That's right.
It had to happen in December. It has to happen
last
now.
year too.
Exactly. And so I think that there is the possibility that if the legislature does come out of conference committee with something, that there will be pressure on the governor to sign it. But the likelihood of it coming out, it doesn't seem that strong.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work both sides of this issue back when it was first raised in the Richardson administration.
That's right too.
And
good reminder.
On the conference committee, they passed through a massive tax package in 12 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything's possible.
That's right.
So
But there was horse trading. I mean, when
Well,
you have a
there's always
budget,
horse trade.
yeah, but
There's
when you have a
always
budget,
compromise, and
but
compromise
when you
is
have a
the
budget,
one
you have an opportunity to
thing.
horse trade
But the
specific
compromise
projects,
is
specific
the one
line
thing that's
items.
lacking here, and so they have.
Would you anticipate a compromise on the fingerprint thing?
I would hope that there would be
Yeah.
a compromise. I mean, everybody's kind of pounding their
Sure.
chests right now, saying no, we're not going to do it. But hopefully, wiser minds will prevail. I think the Senate package provides a good compromise. It provides a two-tier system. Provides those who want to play the federal way in, and those who don't, and opt out.
That's right.
We just need to have some type of compromise, and not the saber rattling. Okay, I get it, but
Sure.
now let's get on and get the legislation put together. Sorry,
Yeah.
Laura, I didn't
No,
mean to
you're fine.
jump on that.
No, I mean, for me, the really frustrating part of this discussion is that, we already have the ability to go after people that are fraudulently obtaining driver's licenses. And the Tax and Rev Department, under the Motor Vehicle Division, already have the ability to do this, and they do it. There are already staff attorneys that work on this. I worked on some of those when I was at the Tax and Rev Department.
Right.
But you have to have the evidence. You have to have very specific, it isn't just a willy-nilly, let's just, we're thinking maybe these people may be fraudulent. No, there's got to be pretty clear investigation that goes with it. And so they're already, so the fact that they're adding this because there's so much, there's so much fraud going on, I agree with this. It is it's much ado about nothing. There is already a process, and it's being handled in the far and few between cases where fraud is clear.
One more week. Let's see what happens. That's all the time we have. Join us online as we discuss the stalled social promotion bill. I'm Gene Grant. Thanks for joining us this week for New Mexico in Focus. And as always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus. Get a preview of what's coming up on the next New Mexico in Focus. It's easy. Sign up for our weekly email at newmexicoinfocus.org.